Let me ask you about a different deal.
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought of Charter and Cox getting together just this past
Inevitable.
week. Inevitable.
Absolutely.
And you think that deal will go through?
Sure. And they don't compete with each other. Why wouldn't it?
And what ultimately happens then to, for example, parent company of this network, at least currently, because it's a spinoff. But I think long-term people...
You are all in such great shape.
God bless
By
you.
the way, let it go out. Buy the stock, which will probably trade at a very low multiple. It'll be money good really quickly. It's a great...
From your lips.
Why?
From your lips.
Why? What's the
because
what's the street missing?
Because right now, everything linear is being
Devalued.
discounted.
Yeah.
Everything. What will happen, just like happened in the record business, which is you had this great deaccessioning. And then, because people wanted records, old term, and streaming came along, it got resurrected. What will happen to these linear channels is they're going to all get reconnected into a bundle. This is not going to be a world.
Money will make up.
This is not going to be a world of a la carte.
Yeah.
So eventually, all that stuff gets reconnected. Not at necessarily the incredible high price points that it was, but legitimately enough to pay the bills with a lot left over. So it's just a matter of time.
Do you feel that way about all of these businesses? I mean, one of the, there's this business, then, David Zaslav potentially is going to be
doing the same,
pushing off some of his linear channels, including maybe CNN. I mean, you might see a lot of this.
Yeah. What an opportunity.
And so how long does it take to get resolved? 5 years.
Oh, you mean for it to
come back?
Well, first of all, by the way,
if we're sitting here in 5 years from now...
Wait a second. Wait. These are all very profitable businesses. I mean, the ability of Warner to spin this off is because it can take an awful lot of debt with it, because they're legitimate businesses that have billions of dollars of cash flow. Right. It's totally a reasonable... By the way, I wouldn't spin them off.
You wouldn't?
No.
Why?
Because I think they're enormously valuable.
Even if you're Brian Roberts and you hold a voting control in the spinoff company, too?
Well, no. Look, I think, again, I think keeping them is probably better. But if you're going to spin them off and you can keep control of them, which is vital, because what you don't want is someone to come in and cobble them up for scrap if they're out there with no protection. Right. Having Brian, the best steward, having voting control of it, protects it for the time it'll take for it all to get reconnected, which I say is 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
But what do I know?
There is a lot. There's another question, though, about in the media business right now, which is just how valuable what people think of as the most valuable parts of these businesses really are anymore, which is some of the streaming businesses. So, how valuable ultimately is HBO Max, or, by the way, Peacock and NBC, or you can go down the line, meaning the businesses, there are certain businesses that are being split up.
Yeah, I get the point.
You get
Sorry. Here I go. The businesses are all okay. They're just never going to be, they can't really be big growth businesses anymore. The old, the hegemony has passed from the Hollywood, quote, studios. They will no longer dominate things. Everything now is dominated by the tech overlords because they really control it. Netflix, Amazon, and Apple control the entertainment business. They have, I don't know, what would you say, 100 times the resources of these legacy companies, and they're in control. They ain't giving it up. Doesn't mean these other companies can't survive. They will survive. They'll just be smaller entities.
It reminds me of Fox coming along and shaking up the 3 networks, primarily that were there, and then seeing like football, leaving CBS and going to Fox, because they could pay more because it made more sense for them.
When Fox came, there were 3 channels, then there were 4, and then there were 400 a few years later. That had real effect. However, the old companies, the legacy companies, ended up, like they did with every new technology up until streaming, they subsumed these companies and bought them in. Right. So they still controlled everything. It's only when Netflix came in and really ripped it away, and then Amazon came in with a completely different business model. The business model of people in the entertainment business is people come and pay you directly for your product. The business model of Amazon is join Prime. We don't really care what you watch, whatever. I mean, like you to watch good stuff. but it's another business model. How do you compete with that if you're just out there making good television?
We're going to take a break in just a second, but distribution.
Yes, sir.
So there's Charter, John Malone, you worked with for a very long time.
Yes.
There's Brian, there's others. And for a very long time, cable owned the train tracks. And, right? There was one set of train tracks, and that was it. Now there's Elon Musk, who has satellites in the sky. Amazon may be putting satellites in the sky soon. Obviously, the cell phone companies.
Yeah, what about this all?
So what happens to the values of the whole sort of distribution ecosystem?
Well, it's no longer their lunch to eat every day. It does not mean that they can't survive. They will, right. But their margins are going to be affected, of course. If you have competition, what's going to happen? You're going to have to lower. You're going to have to compete on price, which they will. It's not a disaster. It's just the great days when you had one railroad track that one group controlled. Those days is over. Netflix, whatever happens after this, Netflix won. They won more than 5 years ago. End.
The end.